Like a 2 years or whatever. I said, well, that's okay, because we knew. I said, yeah, but like that, trying to do that. Awesome. Yeah, it's like hand and around your heart, and he always died without serious stuff. And when I show, there's no reason I get it. So next time I'm wearing a garbage bag when I'm, Being very close to pinching. Yeah, I do. I jump slopes. Yeah. Jump slopes are crazy. Yes. It's that. Yeah, Wednesday,
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for allowing me to come out here and talk to you folks. And my name's Phil Stokes. One of your 5 city commissioners and this year's mayor. And we do rotate. Mayor has no more authority or power than any other commissioner. We rotate. We're vice mayor during a 4-year term, typically vice mayor 1 year, mayor the next. I get to speak at a lot of public engagements, but basically we all are equal votes. And, while we come from each of the 5 districts of Northport, everybody votes for us, obviously. The whole city votes for every district electee, and we represent all of you. So I appreciate it. I've been doing these for quite some time now. Usually I take some space at the library over at Shannon Stout. But they've been booked up like crazy, and I like the idea of coming to communities so people don't have to leave and head out there. And, I don't, unlike some of the events the city puts on, this is me, Phil Stokes, putting this on. There's no staff here, okay? So if you ask too detailed a question, I may not have all your answers for you, but I think it's important that elected officials get out there and meet the citizens, talk to people, make themselves available. And, that's important. We represent you guys, and, we hopefully all put your faith in us to make the best decisions for the most people. And, it's important that we hear as many of you as we can. If you were that engaged and it mattered all that much, you would run for office, you would join advisory boards, but we all have lives. And most of us have worked all our lives and reached a point where we said, I'll let someone else do this. I don't need to be the HOA president. I don't need to run for city office and take some of that brain damage that you get. But it is important that, you know who your electeds are. And for the electeds, it's important to get out here and be with you. So we know what you're thinking and what concerns you. Doesn't mean we always do what you want, but at least we understand where you're coming from. And I think that's important to build trust and understanding. It's important that you know who you voted for and what we stand for. And, again, I think the more you know somebody, the easier it is to trust them, believe in them. And so here I am. So I don't give you a big speech. I don't put on a presentation. What I want to do is know what's on your mind. And there's got to be plenty of stuff on everybody's mind. So, feel free, like any subjects, fair game. I will do the best I can with them. If you ask some real specific questions about what's going on in certain areas, a lot of it I know, some of it may not have reached the commission level, so I may not be a answer, but I'll do the best I can. And what I don't know, I can always get you answers to. So with that, feel free. Who wants to be first? This gentleman over here.
Good evening, Senator. Thank you so very much for showing us. Apple Hall is a great venue for doing this.
Yep.
I knew it was going to be intimate, but I didn't realize it was going to be quite this intimate. My name's Ryan Perry. I lived owned a house in Lakeside Plantation for 16 years. I'm currently divulging that I am a CDD superintendent. All right. What I'd like to talk to you about is issues that are homegrown issues. Starting with Plantation Boulevard. The old timers told me that when they first moved in, Plantation Boulevard extended all the way from Toledo Way to at least Panacea. And so apparently Plantation Boulevard was a pass-through street. It wasn't open, it wasn't our street. Now, I can't speak to the situation outside of our boundaries, but I can speak about the situation within our boundaries. And from where we are, the city owns this section of Plantation Boulevard, okay? The CDD, us, own the median. The median also has streetlights, okay? The city owns the sidewalk, but we own the trees that are between the sidewalk and the street. So it's pretty convoluted. If you continue down Plantation Boulevard, as soon as you pass through our boundary, the streetlights become FPL. So you got to wonder what happened there. I'm sure you probably have no idea either. But consider this. The CDD has upgraded the streetlight poles. We maintain them. We pay the electricity to illuminate a city street. Okay? This past summer, because we own the trees, the CDD spent about $25,000 to trim the low-hanging branches over the city tree. Okay? When Hurricane Ian hit, there were many trees that went down from the median and also from the trees on the side of the roads. We didn't call the city hall and go, hey, you got trees in your street, will you get out here and cut them up so we can get out of our driveways? No, the CDD took it upon themselves and the cost, and our contractors cut up the trees, got them out of the way, and opened up the street. Should we have been compensated for that? I don't know, maybe. So the question is, and I don't expect an answer, but does this sound right that we're footing the bill to not only maintain, but to pay the electric on pole lights, street lights that are illuminating the city street? In the same vein, does it sound right that we should be trimming the trees up on the boulevard, even though we don't own the street? The other street topic I wanted to talk to you about was we own the residential streets. Okay, unfortunately. And because of that, we get no Northport Police Department enforcement for parking. Okay, if even though there's a Northport order that says you will not block your sidewalk, Northport Police says the city doesn't own sidewalks, there's nothing we can do. It comes to parking on the street, even if they're parked facing in the wrong direction. Not a city street, nothing we can do. Okay. From what I understand, previous CD boards had approached the city in the past proposing that you annex our residential streets. And I think, from what I understand, is we always got the answer, thanks to buildings.
Gee, that's a big surprise.
But because we own the streets, we're going on almost 25 years now. Because we own the streets, we're facing a milling and resurfacing estimated bill of $1.3 million. Okay. My CDD assessment has almost reached 50% of my entire tax bill. Almost 47%. Exactly. I'm not here to complain, but to make you aware of the challenges of this CDD. Okay? Essentially, if you think about it, we are a mini version of the city of Northport. We have our city government here in the form of the CDD supervisors. We have a budget, which 1.3 million, so it's not fair change. And we're facing a lot of the same issues the city is, aging infrastructure. If anything else, I'd like you to take away to this evening was specifically the streets, especially Plantation Boulevard. I mean, that's a question that perhaps you may be able to come up with an answer with. You know, we could ask Santa Claus to take over our streets too, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But I appreciate your time and thank you for coming.
Thank you. That's a good question. I mean, it's multifaceted. I'll start with the easier part because I also, while I live up in the Rollins Park area, we're CDD, West Village Improvement District. And, you know, all that infrastructure was built. It's still fairly new, but the burden is on us property owners. And we pay some pretty stiff CDD charges in our tax bill. And, you know, over time, there's no doubt the cost of repairing, replacing that infrastructure is on us. And, you know, the developers who build these developments, and it's, the truth is CDDs, they got some benefits and they got some downsides. The benefits are it pushes out the cost and amortizes the cost of the infrastructure over a lot of years, so people can share the cost. People come and go, new people who come and benefit, help pay for it. And that's all well and good. It gives us a lower entrance fee. Our actual house prices are typically a little lower than up north where you see the infrastructure's already in and the developer's building all that into the cost of the house. The problem is, over time, depending on how much debt the developer incurred building all that infrastructure and the cost of repairs and maintenance, okay, over time, falls pretty much on us within our CDD inside our district. And, you know, there's a lot of concerns. Ever since the recession in 2008, almost 40% of CDDs have some sort of financial difficulties. So it is a concern. And it's interesting because, you know, there's been a lot of articles, there's a lot of focus on CDDs. Are they good? Are they bad? Are they not? Is there not enough oversight, enough regulation? And the truth is, while they're a tool, a good financial tool to help us, and they have some value, they make sure your infrastructure is good. They really do create an environment that's welcoming for the new buyer. On the other hand, if the debt burden's too high and the economy gets you know, goes south, it falls on us, not to mention the cost of repairs and replacement. You know, there are over 70 HOAs in the city of Northport. I don't know how many CDDs.
70?
70.
70.
A lot. I don't know how many CDDs, a bunch. And, you know, the reality is that while the city is out there replacing and repairing and upgrading the infrastructure that the city owns, like you say, the CDD is stuck with the other burden. When it comes to policing, you know, we have that same issue up there. There's a way to do it. You need an interlocal agreement with the city of Northport, and they will come and do traffic. They'll come in and they'll police the streets for you, and they'll do that kind of traffic control. But you gotta enter into the agreement. I don't know that it really costs that much, but you gotta enter into the agreement. And there's the slippery slope there, and it's been done in many communities, some of the larger communities. If they come in, they're gonna police it. So if we're here having fun at the Christmas party and we're getting hammered and we hop on our golf cart and we go on down Plantation Boulevard and we get pulled over, we're gonna get a ticket. And it's happened in a lot of communities, and there's been pushback. You know, get the police out of here. We don't need this. So it's a two-edged sword, but I would reach out to our police because we do interlocals with a number of communities. And some of the West Villages communities have reached out to the city and asked for that because they're big. And the kids, you know, teenagers on the golf course, it's out of control. And it'd be nice to have patrol. So there's an opportunity there. when it comes to your question about the convoluted situation with Plantation, you know, I can put you in touch with Chuck Speaks, who's our director of public works. And I don't know if have you ever reached out to the city and inquired as to whether or not that they'd be interested in taking over the streets necessarily, but paying for some of the trees, some of the things that affect city-owned property? Have you gotten any feedback?
Well, I have not.
It's, okay, so, but, you know, I'll tie you in. I mean, I can't tell you what we can necessarily and can't do yet, but it's worth a conversation, because if there's ways we can save some money for you, then that's not bad. And if you don't ask, you don't get. So, you know, let's see, it's very much an operations issue. So obviously I don't have the best answer for you, but I can put you in touch with Chuck, who's been on here a long, long time in the city, and can at least tell you what we can and can't do to maybe help you out.
Question.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Louise White. I live on Scarlet Avenue, and I've been here 4 years. My husband and I are originally from Chicago, Illinois, and we also lived in Huntley States. This is the very first community I've ever lived in where the resident was responsible for a street, responsible for lights, sidewalks, etc. And to Ron's point, the cost of replacing or repaving these streets is astronomical. And we don't really have enough lighting because the city doesn't own the streets. So you walk down here at midnight or 10 o'clock and you're walking your dog, you're either going to step on a rattlesnake or get hit by a car. Also, to his point about the police protection, sometimes I have a hard time sleeping. I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning, some guy was walking down the middle of the street looking at all the cars, you know. So it's a safety issue, and it's also cost because there are many seniors living in this subdivision. We're paying real estate taxes, we're paying HOA fees, we're paying CBD fees. You start adding all that up, in addition to what it's going to cost down the road to fix these roads, these people will be forced out of their homes. So I'm deeply concerned about the costs, and like I said, this is the first community where I was shocked to learn that we are responsible for all of this. And I was also told that originally there were 3 different builders when this community was started, and they made some kind of shady deal, and now we are stuck with that deal for over 20 years. So I'm hoping that there is something that can be done. My second point is about the lack of good grocery stores in Northport. We are stuck with Publix and Aldi. Publix is ripping us off. I would desperately like to see Fresh Market or Trader Joe's. I've actually reached out to them. They didn't answer me. They said there's a lot of space. There's tremendous growth in Northport. We need more stores to pick from. So we have some competition. So we don't have to pay $25 for a roast, and maybe we could go somewhere else. So.
I've never heard anybody raise these issues.
Sure you have, on a daily basis.
Well, you know, I wish I had a better answer for you on the CDD end, because I'll tell you, it's like welcome to Florida. Right? I never heard of CDDs before till we moved to Florida, but this is the way of life here. And, you know, when you think about it, it kind of was an interesting tool, because a typical builder, you go out and borrow money to build a house, and you have to build infrastructure and other things. The interest rates are high. Being a CDD, the borrowing ability is, I mean, the ability to borrow at lower interest rates is there. Developers have taken advantage of it. It's a great way to price a house a bit more affordable, and then say, okay, but you got a tax bill that you're going to pay over 30 years. The good thing is, if you're of an age where you're coming and going and you're going to move on after 7 years, it's one thing. For those of us that, like, this may be our last stop, right, we're kind of saddled with it. And the truth is that all that infrastructure, see, in Florida, you know, it was a swamp, it was wetlands, it was the whole state. To build all this infrastructure, who was going to build it? Municipalities don't have the money, the counties don't have the money, the state's not going to invest. So developers, it fell on developers. Well, they figured out a great way to do it. I'll go borrow the money, we'll go ahead and we'll build the infrastructure, will be a separate taxing authority. So the property owners will come in, they'll buy their house, they may or may be cash or have a mortgage, but then they've got a separate bill. They can pay off the bond end typically of a CDD, but they're still paying for the maintenance and upkeep portion. And the problem is when you get to the point where some of that infrastructure starts needing replacement, repair. And the only way I know to deal with it, because it falls on us property owners. I'm in your exact same situation. Probably though, by the time where we live need upgrading and replacement, I'll be popping up daisies. But for those people who live in communities that have been here and have some longevity, you know, you're facing some of those costs, and they're real costs, and they're, as this gentleman said over here, taking a bigger bite out of our pocketbooks every year. The key is maybe to look at financings and to say, how could we, can these things be restructured? Can we take what bonds we got, look at what the investment needs to be made to upgrade and improve or redo some of the streets, and push that cost out again and keep the costs low. I mean, interest rates aren't exactly the lowest right now, and that makes it difficult to refinance a lot of things. But it takes some creative financing, and the danger is, you know, when CDDs begin, they're in their infancy, they're controlled by the developer. Developers got all the money in the world typically. They got the financial people, the legal people, and all that to figure this stuff out. Then we take it over at some point in time, we create our own board, and then we're faced with some of the challenges of figuring out how to do it. I personally think that it's not going to be long before the state starts to address some of this, because you can already see the mentality in Tallahassee. Okay, they're starting to hear, all of us, that our tax bills are strangling us, property taxes are killing us. There needs to be some relief. But there's not just property taxes, there's insurance, there's CDD costs, there's a lot of things. I think we're going to see some greater level of legislation that starts to create some more accountability. And maybe there's a way to do some of this. There needs to be some assistance for the CDD communities that have to figure out how they're going to do this. If you could come in and say, okay, let's say you owe $2 million, just to pick a number, on the bonds that were originally set up, and it will cost another $1 million to do the upgrades you need. If you can refinance all that, push it out another 30 years, the cost to all of you who live here presently will either stay the same or possibly even go down. And then as properties turn over time, future people who come in will help carry some of that burden. But it's tricky, and it puts a real challenge on the CDD boards. And, you know, not every board has all the talent and the capability, and to put some of those deals together is expensive. You gotta hire lawyers, you gotta hire accountants, you gotta pay investment banking fees and all the other stuff to finance these. So it is a challenge. It's interesting that this is the first issue of this meeting. And the reason is I was contacted, I don't know how many of you follow a lot of online stuff, but Spotlight, you know, there's been these media outlets that have been all over developers. And one of the things they are scrutinizing and hammering away at are CDDs. And there are good ones, there are bad ones. There are developers who take advantage and others that don't. I was invited in December to be on a panel with Sarasota County Commissioner Tom Knight, and John Faxton was a two-time county commissioner. And God, they must have asked a lot of people before they got to me, but you know, I was probably low on the list, but finally got to me. And so in December, there'll be a panel to discuss CDDs and are they good? Are they bad? What could be done to kind of protect our citizenry out there? And the more the spotlight shines on this issue, the better chance there is. Municipalities' hands are really tied. We don't have the legislative capability to change some of this stuff, but Tallahassee does. And it's taken a long time for them to finally wake up to the fact that something needs to be done about property taxes. But there's a lot of other challenges. They've been talking about insurance costs for a long time. I don't know if the answer was simply to reduce everybody's ability to sue the insurance companies And that was gonna somehow lower rates, because I haven't seen my rates go down. But, you know, hopefully they're gonna get it. There's a lot of people running for for state that are concerned about insurance costs. So, you know, I don't have a solution for you, but I can tell you this: the more we shine the spotlight, the more we tell our electeds about this, the better. And, you know, hopefully over time, now, whether it's gonna help us at our age or gonna help the next generation who move in time, there'll be change, because we're getting priced out.
Yes.
It's making it so impossible for people to stay, especially those with some fixed incomes. I mean, why do you think I'm a commissioner? I need a few extra dollars. Jesus, I have to, I would be able to take Val out to dinner. But it is, it's challenging. I don't mean to make light of it, because it's a serious issue, and, you know, we're all, we're all living with it. Your second question, you know, people say, you know, how many more car washes and mini stores is it we need in this city? I mean, can't the city bring Detweiler's? Can't they bring whatever, Trader Joe's? The problem is, you know, think about it. How would taxpayers feel if the city of Northport had hundreds and hundreds of acres that the city owned because it used all of our tax dollars to invest in land? The city's not in the business of owning property. We don't own hardly any property in this city. It's all privately owned. A lot of it's been owned for a long time. So we were developed by general development as a residential, quarter-acre, platted kind of town. And we're a bedroom residential community. 90% of all our tax dollars come from us. I mean, we don't print money, only the feds get to do that. So when you look at how much it's cost, you know, I mean, all the dollars to run this city, to keep us safe, provide the amenities, are coming from residential property taxes. So in our strategic plan, and in every city, to be economically sustainable, you need to be in the 20-30% range of commercial revenue. I mean, it used to be a balance so we don't get strangled. Problem with Northport is, initially, all the zoning was residential. So we've gone through painstaking, you know, replanning. I mean, the rezoning and redevelopment took a dozen years in the city. And it's painful for people who live in transitional areas, painful to see what was a residential neighborhood become mixed use. However, what it does do is it promotes investment. It promotes multifaceted kind of residential development, which builds some density. And for commercial developers, for the Detweilers, the Trader Joe's, the supermarket chains, it's all about the numbers. And when they see that the numbers are there, the population's there, in order for them to make a buck, they'll invest. We are about there. You wouldn't believe the number of businesses that have all of a sudden come to recognize Northport's here. We got a ton of land. We got a labor base. We got the youngest city in Sarasota County, average 47, 48 years old. 90% of our population leave the city to go to work. I mean, it's hard to figure that out. All you got to do is from 41 and 75. I mean, it's a nightmare. Everybody goes somewhere to work. We need to do more live, work, and play. So as more and more commercial businesses come in, and you see as much as you go, when you turn off from 75, when you see all the Benderson build out, that helps. There are jobs there. And more, we are starting to attract, I mean, with the hospitals, you think about how many years Will paved Sarasota County, and we didn't have a hospital. I mean, we got a pop in Welland Park, we got the Sumter Sarasota Memorial, HCA is growing, Advent Health, we got a behavioral center. We're going to become a South County medical mecca. Northport will become known 10, 15 years from now. We will be a South County medical hub. And it will do wonders for the job market and bring in lots of tax revenue. All, Sarasota Memorial doesn't pay tax, but all the businesses that are going to affiliate itself in and around will, and that'll help us. With all that, you'll get more and more restaurants, you get more and more shops and stores. You're going to start seeing it over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. In our strategic, we figure about 5 years out, you're going to see that 10% commercial revenue number jump by a good 5, 6, 7%. It's going to start. It doesn't make everybody happy, because if you live right along the corridors of Sumter or Toledo Blade or Price, and you're in those transitional areas, and you moved here years ago, and you didn't want this development, you got the heck away from Port Charlotte so you could avoid all this, and now it grew right into your neighborhood, you're not gonna be a happy camper. And I get that. And there isn't really a darn thing anyone can do, because property rights in the state of Florida is a powerful thing. And you can't, you can try to say no. There have been plenty of municipalities that have said no to certain developers. Okay, the Celery Fields development that probably some of you have followed the story on, the county commission said no to the initial plan. Now ordinance come back with a scaled down version, and the county says no again. Okay, they're gonna get sued, and invariably, the law ends up being on their side if they conform to the Uniform Land Code and to the comp plans of the county and the municipalities. So, the key is to somehow work with them to keep it smart and not, you can't control it, but you can manage it. And I think that with a carefully blended growth plan, we're going to get the population, the diversity of population, and the density of population to attract the commercial growth we need to help balance the economy. Because, you look at Fort Myers, they pay 3 times the millage rate that we do. Now, we pay a lot of money, but our property values are low, comparable to Venice, comparable to Sarasota, Longboat Key, all these other places. So, it's hard to make the dollars work, and yet we're one of the safest communities around. We've invested a lot of money in our policing and our fire rescue, and in the amenities, 29 parks and rec areas, and we don't have nearly as much out here out east where we need it. And as the population grows out here, we need to make those investments. Who's going to pay for it? Do we want to pay for it? I mean, look at the amenities we got in our communities, in our gated communities or ungated, in our planned communities. Why do we want to pay for community centers and this and that the general public in Northport are going to benefit from, yet we're going to have to pay some of that free? I want the commercial developers to pay for a lot of that stuff. And you look at all the areas that have yet to get water and sewer in this city. I don't want to pay for that. I paid for it in Welland Park. You paid for it here. But developers can pay for it. And that's some of the value. Remember, the CDDs, they're done residentially, but some of these special districts are done for commercial expansion. That's our plan for out the Yorkshire area, because there's where our commercial light industrial is really hopefully going to boom. And who's going to pay for the water, sewer, the roads, all that? The developers. That's the value of the partnerships. Not all development's bad, but it's got to be smart, strategic, and well managed. And that's not easy. It really is not easy, because there's good developers and there's bad developers. And, cities historically are not real good at building stuff. They're not real good at managing stuff. So, you're a little at a disadvantage with some of these big developers. They've got lots of money, lots of lawyers, lots of finance people. And, you can point to any number of mistakes that have been made, not just here in Northport, but everywhere in dealing with these developers over the years. So in time, with a good, strong commission and good, strong city management, knowledgeable, educated people who are good subject matter experts, they can stand toe to toe with these guys. Northport's such a transition from a little bedroom community to a little cosmopolitan city. The quality of staff is growing dramatically in this city. And I think over the next 5, 10 years, the stage really will be set for the next 50 years. And hopefully it'll be such that we don't end up like some of the other communities with military, it's 2 and 3 times what we're paying. So, it's, does it solve our problem right now? No, but you watch and see, there are a lot of new businesses looking and ready to start do things. I know developers who bought up land along Toledo with the idea of putting like these little urbanized kind of areas with some apartments or residences upstairs and shops, restaurants down below, a little bit in the live, work, and play mentality, because where do we have a real downtown? We're not like Venice, where you can go on Venice Boulevard or in a Sarasota on Main Street and some of the others. So, it would have been nice if that whole area by City Hall, right, where Heron Creek was and all that, could have been a beautiful downtown. But there's a case of a developer, he owned everything. He owned that whole area, including everything City Hall's on. Those apartments on Sumter. Think City Hall, you think we wanted those apartments? We agonized over it. We could not stop it being built because he had the legal right to do it. It was permitted years ago. All he had to do was build it. And he knew he wasn't going to do it. So he got all the permits done, all the stuff, and then he flipped the property so that the new buyers who built those could do it. Because if he had sold the property first and they came to the city, they would have never got the permission to do that stuff. So here we are with all the apartments. Now, the upside of that is anybody who's renting, now we don't rent, but anybody who's tried to rent an apartment in between our houses, we needed one, because we paid over $2,000 for a 750 square foot one bedroom up in Well. I was like, you got to be kidding me. The cost of rentals in this city are astronomical. We need more affordable housing. So if developers want to overbuild, what's going to happen? Supply and demand. They build more than there's people to fill, prices will come down. And that's what I'm hoping will happen, and not to mention that there's such a push for more affordable property. So, again, may not affect us, or property owners as much as some of the other people who are coming in, but give it time. I mean, we just got to live another 20 years. Yeah, good luck. Yeah, right.
Hello, I'm Dolly Keller. I live on Savannah Drive. One of the things that bothers me the most, and I want to get some feedback on, is when you're walking around the development, you're constantly being blocked by cars parking on the sidewalk. They park and they cut off the sidewalk. So you gotta walk out of the street, like my husband's had some infirmaries and he can't walk in grass. And to try and get him in the street and come back out, it's a problem. And we've been told basically that nothing can be done about it. The police won't come in and they won't patrol the streets. They won't give out tickets. In the area where I am, we have 3 police officers, vehicles that consistently block the sidewalk. And it's disturbs. Am I wrong? Is it not a law that you're not allowed to block the sidewalks?
That is absolutely correct. Unfortunately, as this gentleman spoke to the issue originally, at the very beginning of the meeting, these are private communities, just like mine is. The wall, if there's an emergency, police and fire rescue will be here.
Right.
But when it comes to traffic management, not unless you enter into an interlocal agreement with the city, and you can do it, it doesn't cost money. You enter into, the agreement. And they will come and they'll patrol and they'll ticket people who are blocking the sidewalks and parking on the street, if that's against rules, although these are private streets, so I don't know how that might work. But certainly things like blocking the sidewalk, that's just against the law. But there's nobody to police it unless the police can be in here and do it. Now, there's some special rules for residents who are first responders, have the ability and the right and to park on the street, perhaps where everyone else doesn't, but you can't block the sidewalk.
And they habitually do, the one officer,
Yeah.
they have a car parked this way up to the garage, and then the police car is parked from the street up to butt on, like right up to the other vehicle, and it's got the other half of the driveway available. And I'm like, why park like that?
Don't tell anyone I told you, it's file a complaint. That's what I do, I call the police department and I'd ask to talk to one of the senior people there.
Yeah.
Tell them you got a particular problem, it's a private street and all this, but you got one of your officers who lives here, and it would be nice if someone could have a nice little chat with them.
Well, we've got 3 different districts that are in here. We've got Dennis, Port Charlotte, and Sarasota. So, all 3 of them.
Now,
Jolly.
see, we're saying,
Yes, no, it wasn't pretty.
Oh, it wasn't Northport. Well, that makes me feel better. So I know some of those people. You have Venice, who else?
Dennis, Port Charlotte, and Sarasota.
Venice, I can help you. I know people in Venice. I don't know, Port Charlotte, I don't know too many people, but we might be able to do that. But-
I do have one other thing.
That's terrible.
I do understand that a law was passed that utilities are not allowed to put people under contract. They're not allowed to have contracts. Is that correct? Utilities?
For what?
Okay, what
Specific
I'm referring
utilities
to,
too.
I'm referring to Comcast. But I have been, and I remember the law going through, like FPL can't block you into contract. Am I correct?
When I was, when we first moved here, I was in a community that we had 2,000 homes, and I was the first HOA president of that community. And what I know of the 720 statutes, which rule HOAs, it was 10 years. Now, it may well have changed since then, but
Well, there was a law passed, I think in the last year,
that says they
that
can.
they're not allowed to put you under contract, so you don't know anything about that.
No, and, I'll tell you, if you Googled it, you could probably find it. And if that's the case, that's the only problem is typically to switch providers, if that's where you're headed with it. The dilemma with it is the investment in the fiber optics or the cable, whatever's required. And that's a big problem when you try to bring in competition.
Yeah.
They either got to buy out the old group or put in their own infrastructure, and it's a fortune. So they end up charging through the nose, and it's not an easy thing. I don't know a lot about it, but it very well may be that they've changed the laws, because you pretty much as a community get locked in to whoever is there, and, they can charge what they do. I know what we did is, we did some bundling, because when we started, we only had, I think, internet, and then we put together cable and internet and phone, and we did some things that created some packages that helped our property owners and brought the costs down a little bit, but, pretty much you're locked in.
Comcast was here a month ago, and they said they stopped on contract as of April.
Yeah.
That's good.
But they also said that if you're in a contract, you're in it, they're
Oh, you're in it,
not issuing it.
Right. Once you're in a
I do have
contract.
one other thing that I want to state, and it's not a question, it's just a statement. I'm very disappointed in the loss of trees in the Northport area. Yeah, I understand that Price Boulevard is under construction, and thank goodness for that, for people who voted to go ahead. But they're tearing out entire lots of trees, and I understand that you need places to put some of your stuff, and it seems to me that it's an excess. And also in other areas, like trees are just being torn down. And it's my understanding that it has been reinstated as of October of 2024, that taking down a tree for a resident, like if I want to remove a tree from a property, I once again have to apply for a permit. And that had ended between Ian and 2024, that you did. Then I found out that, you did. But, these people are just clear cutting lots. And it's very disappointing.
Even though you're not asking us a question, I'll fill you in a little bit on some of the background and what we do as a city to try to remedy that situation. When I was running for office over 3 years ago, one of the first things I did was get together with the Nature Conservatory and a group of people who were who are really concerned about the environment, from scrub jays to trees to gopher tortoises, and said, like, what are you all looking for? Like, what are your challenges? What are you up against? And one of the things people said was a city our size should have a department in it, or a division at least in it, that addressed this issue. You got developers and property owners who are cutting down trees left and right, displacing wildlife, and nobody's keeping an eye on this stuff. We created a natural resource division, and we funded it with the tree fund. When people cut down trees, they pay big money, thousands of dollars. It's amazing. Now it's a bit of a burden for the small little guy who owns a lot or two that they bought 20 years ago and now want to build a house on, and they got to pay a lot of money for those trees to come down. But the developers, they pay through the nose. That money, and it's millions a year, we accumulate. We use it to fund our natural resource department, our horticulture people. We also, in our budget process, set aside money. This year alone, $1 million spent on tree replantings, $1 million. I fought hard this year because there are some environmentally sensitive lands in this city, along Myakkahatchee Creek, in a lot of areas where we have lots of flooding and lots of problems, and we have lots of wildlife that are getting pushed out everywhere. This year's budget, the 25-26 budget, is $2.5 million in it, set aside for environmentally sensitive land purchase. The good thing about that is, under the ordinance, nobody can build on that land. And the only thing you can do with it, other than leave it natural, is to do stormwater management. So part of the long-range plan here, and back in 2018, the city did a study and came up with an incredible plan to help the Big Slough waterway and create reservoir, a small type reservoir, and some canals and things that could help mitigate flooding. But like most governments that do studies and then say, oh, wow, like, this is a great study, what a great idea, where are we going to get the money to pay for it? It goes on the shelf and collects dust. Well, we're actually moving forward and trying to do this. And we're working with the county because the county's big on it. They've already acquired some properties for us here in Northport, environmentally sensitive. And so over time, you'll see it. This city needs to have balance. We moved here not to be Sarasota. I mean, y'all and we all love the charm of Northport, the greenery, the parks. Can we stop developing? No. We can manage it. We got to make sure there's enough open space, there's enough trees, there's enough green areas, and you got a commission and you got a staff that believe in it. Elena Ray, who's the head of development services in our city, she's over the building department, she does permitting, she does all. Elena Ray was one of the senior people working on the Everglades restoration projects. She's an environmentalist. She heads our development services, which not many people know that. She is committed, and our natural resource division reports to her. So, it's a constant push. Hey, I don't blame you. You're not the only one.
Sad about the trees going down.
Thank you. Don't throw
Thank
it.
you for being here tonight. I thank John Rollins from CVRA
Yeah.
Radio as well for doing this.
That's
Appreciate
right.
this. I actually have two issues. First one, I want to push back a little bit on something you mentioned earlier. I think a lot of people in this town would like to see the city of Northport own more land. And I came here a year ago and I asked the city manager at the time they did a tour, at the name of the city tour. And I asked, and you mentioned also, we have no parks over here. We have one park east of Toledo Blade, two east of Southard, once the Chamberlain Park is in town. And I asked a year ago, what's the answer to that? The answer pretty much was, they're coming, they're coming, they're coming. We're gonna count on developers to give us one out here, I-75. I'm like, okay. So a year goes by, I haven't heard an update on that, so I'd like to, you got me, where I go for that answer maybe?
Yeah,
Or-
when you look at the blueprint of parks and recs, there's 29 parks and recs throughout the city.
Right,
Virtually all of them are on the west side of town.
so,
And yet, despite Welland Park, you know, the rest of Northport's growing, and we got nothing over here.
So,
Italy Avenue Park, there is, how many acres? 40? I want to say. I think there's about 42 acres off of Italy Ave. That is, well, to back up a little, within the next 30 to 60 days, a new master plan for our Parks and Recs department will be finished. You know, when I got on, I inherited the commission spot from Jill Luke, and Jill collected everything. And in my office, I got books and information on everything. And one of the things I found was this huge book that was a Parks and Recs master plan that was done back in the teens, 2000s. And I read every bit of it. And I mean, there were parks that aren't used at all. There were parks that were so close to other parks, and it was so outdated. And I started asking, and even city manager said, when was that done? I mean, it was like, wasn't on many people's radar. And, you know, they work with the budgets they got, and Parks and Recs have been saying for a long time how we need more out east. And Italy Ave's gonna happen. 42 acres, it's gonna be a little different than some of the other parks. It's gonna be a little more environmentally friendly. Its emphasis is gonna try to be on lower cost. You know, people really think, you look to build something, maybe it's $7-10 million, let's say, to build a 40-acre recreational kind of park with some facilities in it. And, okay, so we collect our impact fees, and we save the money up since we're a city that really can't borrow without referendums. And when we get the money, we build something, we have capital improvement project lists and priorities, and we plot along one at a time. And then, you know, the day comes when we finally build some of these things, and then there's the cost of upkeep and maintenance. And I can tell you, it takes a huge bite out of our general fund. Is it something our citizens want? You bet it is. Just like they want public safety, they want the quality of life amenities that we all moved here for. And so what we try to do is balance it. And I am, you know, once that master plan's done, I dare say we're going to take a hard look at some of the west side properties and look at repurposing. Could we sell some of them, repurpose them, do some partnerships to develop some of them, and use the money to invest out east to acquire property? Now, a good example, Star Farms, which is out off east of 75 off Toledo Blade. If you remember back to pre-recession days, that was going to be like a 3,600 single-family home development out there. And then the recession hit and it went on the shelf. That was brought back the first year I was on the commission, and the developer there came to the city and said, you know, want to build 3,600 homes, we're ready to go again, blah, blah, blah. I said, you can't build 3,600 single-family homes. You're gonna build some condos, starter homes, condos, villas, townhomes, and they've worked on that. The additional challenges, you need the infrastructure, water plants, reclaimed water plants, potable water plants, a lot of the infrastructure. Part of what we negotiated with them was a 20-acre park that they would build, their development would build and maintain, that special district would build and maintain and make available to all the citizens in the city. And that would be huge, because the costs of maintaining these things are astronomical. Some of the other partnerships, you got King Plastics, who's, you know, putting in I mean, there are private businesses that can enhance some of our amenities and free up some of the dollars to do some of the things you want to do and we need to do out east here. So I think you're going to see it, but it does take years. And part of the challenge is the money. It's always all about the money and having the money. If we had enough money, yeah, but we could invest in some of that land for strategic purchases, like some of the parks and recs we need.
so I'll check back next year.
It's a struggle, because you look, you know, you all see, I mean, we went out for referendums. We're the only city that can't borrow money. And you know, I get that, but it would be great. I mean, if we've got the revenue streams to be able to pay the interest, and we could spread out the cost over 30 years, and people, businesses who haven't even moved here can help pay for all that stuff, it would be great to make those investments and help benefit us now with some new parks and amenity areas. So it's a struggle, but believe me, it's on the radar.
Everybody soccer fields packed to the gills, all the baseball fields are packed to the gills, so I get it.
You know, and we're doing
That's downtown, they need more fields. But
You're not-
I do have a second item, and this might be new to you, because it just happened a few days ago. And I came here because I got a lot of parents talking to me through my little side gig, John and I kind of do. This is more on my side of side gig. My question is about the city's fee structure for high school football game ambulances on site. We had an issue this Friday, a young man got hurt pretty bad, and the high school did not have an ambulance on site. And I'm not privy to the budgets of you guys, or privy to the budget of the sports department and all that. This is the second time this year they didn't have an ambulance on site. One of my parents approached me on this, and they looked it up, and right now it's based on what they're seeing, about $500 for about a 4-hour time slot for an ambulance with 2 EMS personnel on site. I don't think it's 4 hour, I don't think it's an hourly contract, I just don't know that. But my question is more of a hope that you guys could work together on a better deal on that, because you have varsity, JV, freshman team, that's multiple thousands of dollars.
Oh, we're
that
happy,
you know the
yes.
they're not gonna come
I'll
home.
be happy to talk to City Manager and find out more.
So I don't know,
See
if
what
we could talk to about that on here, and I don't wanna talk for the school. I'm just talking to parents who are like, why aren't the ambulances there?
Fair ask.
I know it's financial,
See
so
what we can find out, then I can feed the info back through John to you, so.
I appreciate
I'll
it,
find out.
thank you, sir.
What else?
Next question?
What else we got?
No question.
Yeah, what else?
So Elena Ray was the reason we have lower buildings over at something, right? She negotiated with the building.
Thanks for coming, Phil. I appreciate your time and effort.
Oh, my please.
I have a question about up front here on Toledo Blade. When I moved here 21 years ago, Toledo Blade was a little 2-lane road, went all the way down to 776. There was hardly any commercial here at all. And when I started down here, there was a sign at Price Boulevard in Toledo Blade saying, coming soon, Price Boulevard will be widened. Well, here it is 20 years later, and they're just starting. A little slow movement on that. But my real issue is all of these warehouses that are out front. I feel like I'm living in an industrial park now. It was not like this when I bought my house here and moved here. And I'm a little bit upset about it. And it looks like they're sitting there empty.
You know,
Look at it. When you go out of here, go up there. There's a lot of dark spaces in there, a lot of empty spaces in there.
you know, that whole Benderson property down there, okay, as you get close to 75. Phase 1, there's 3 phases to that project. Phase 1, before they even broke ground, they had it all leased out. My understanding is that Benderson's literally almost leased out. Now, they haven't put everybody in yet because there's still a lot of interior work going on.
Well, when Benderson picks up that property, I said, oh, good. He's gonna make something like Cocoa Plum here, which would have been fine with me, some restaurants, some retail stores. We got warehouses. So I'm not happy about it. And I think there's a few residents in here that feel the same way I do.
You know, being the young city this is, I mean, 65 years old, it's still a child. It wasn't that many years even before you got here that the horse and buggies were going down Toledo Blade. And, you know,
Wasn't anything on Toledo Way.
right, and yet Toledo Blade, Sumter Boulevard, Price, these roads inevitably will going to grow up and will get widened and will continue to get more and more congested. It's inevitable because they're the major arterial roads in this city. And the key is, while we have to do it, you can do it in a way, hopefully, that has the trees, the buffers, the aesthetics that you want. It doesn't always happen, but you try to do it that way. That area at 75 in Toledo Blade, let's face it, You can go all over the state, most every state. You get an interchange like that, you're gonna see just what you're seeing.
Well, I
It
can
is,
remember when there was a sign up there for almost 20 years for a hotel. They were trying to get, what the hell happened?
hotels,
I have to blame the Economic Development Committee or whoever's on that for not really going after motels and restaurants to come in here.
Steve, and you're saying that what we've been saying in the city over the last 5, 6, 7 years, there wasn't the planning. And, you can say, what was wrong with those elected people who were here then? What was wrong with city staff? Weren't they thinking? Weren't they planning? Nobody really wanted this to happen.
No.
Nobody wanted Northport to transition from what it was intended to be to what it is now. Everyone wanted to get away from this and come to live out. I mean, look at the estates, people didn't want all this development. So for years and years and years, the city never planned for it. It felt like maybe if we didn't plan, we didn't think, if we didn't focus on it, it wouldn't happen. But it was inevitable. You think about it, 15, 20 years ago, when Val and I would come to visit our folks in South Sarasota County, we used to come down to Venice. We didn't think there was anything south of Venice until you got to Fort Myers and Naples, And this was like the hinterlands, and it was inevitable. When we moved here, when we decided, we want to come and be near our folks and spend some quality years before they passed on, we looked around. I worked hard all my life, but I didn't have a lot of money. I couldn't afford Venice, couldn't live on the beach, didn't want to live in Sarasota with all that congestion, didn't want to live too close to the in-laws. And so we looked down here, where are we going to go? And what about this place, Northport? And we looked around and, we ended up, we want to be about 30 minutes. So we kind of we didn't even know what the heck West Villages and Welland Park was. We just saw 2 developments that were there. They were 30 minutes from our folks. And we said, this looks good. Because we came, looked at Bobcat and Cypress Falls and all these, and that would have added another 30, 40 minutes to the drive. So here we are. And now look at this place. And so in the last 5 or 6 years, people can say, well, I may not be happy with these changes and all this stuff, but you've got a staff. And remember, us commissioners, we come and go. We get elected, we work our 1 or 2 terms, and we're out of here. But staff has been upgraded to a quality of personnel that has the capability, the knowledge, the experience to plan and master plan this city in a balanced way. But we're playing catch up, and there's stuff that happened that we can't fix. Just like the apartments over there on Sumter. Some of the strategic planning, if we had you think we like that we have no roads to get us in and out of the city all the time, and there's congestion, but we're trapped. What do? How the heck, we go on the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Board, they don't even want to put on a plan how price could go through or over Deer Prairie Preserve. I mean, you couldn't go through it. That's a beautiful preserve. You got to go over it. You got to go over it like how many, God knows how much money it costs. They don't even have that on their radar. So what do? We widen some streets. We'll redo with FDOT the interchanges at Toledo and Sumter. And we'll finally try to move up the dates on the Yorkshire interchange, which will help stimulate the development further out east from here. But, poor planning. Is it because they were bad, the leaders then? No. They stepped up, they cared about their city, they tried to do the best they could. Hell, it wasn't that long ago, they didn't even allow schools in this city. They didn't want any kids. Look at us now. We're the youngest city in the county with an average age of 47, 48 years old in there. You go to the Halloween tomorrow night, you see thousands of kids there. It's incredible city.
Here.
We go.
Yeah, you get here. So I feel your pain. I get it. We are planning. And there are many people who criticize this planning process because they don't want to change. And some of it we gotta try to manage and tweak to mitigate the problems that we've inherited. But we're working at it, and it is what we do every single day.
I have to also believe that all these warehouses that have been built up here that are now empty has brought our property values down. I really believe that. And it shows up when you see what people got their houses on the market and what they're selling for now. My house is worth $50,000 more, less today than it was a year ago.
I'm not sure if that's the result as much as the economy. It's really interesting because in the city of Northport, we found that, this last go-round, property values actually on the way on the far west, the Welland parcel went way up and legacy went down. But I'm not sure it was as a result of that. And I think you're going to see, over time, it's a cyclical thing, but as the right type of development occurs along the Toledo corridor, and you start to get a lot of mixed use, and you start to get these little urbanized areas, and this becomes more of a live, work, and play area. Yeah, that corner down there, I mean, we're not that far from it here, so it's gonna be there. But for the rest of Toledo, as we were coming down today, I went 41 to Toledo and came down, and there's a lot of land. You're gonna see a lot of great development that directly more benefits us. We just gotta live long enough to enjoy it, because everything takes a bloody time. You see price. There's a perfect example. 20 years ago, they knew price needed to be wide. It would have been $5-6 million to do that bloody project. They could not figure out how to do it. The city couldn't borrow to do it without a referendum. I don't know why they didn't. 20 years, and now it's an $80-90 million project. That's unacceptable. This commission, I made my commitment. I am not a kick the can down the road guy. I'm a believer you figure out the best way to do something, find the best balance, and then do it, because time's money and things ain't getting cheaper. When I was a kid, man, for 10 grand, we had a beautiful split level in a little suburban community in New Jersey. And, you know, one income, my dad was a teacher and we did great. Seriously now, 2 families earn over 100,000 and it can barely make ends meet. And those of us on fixed incomes, we just keep getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. It's got to change. And I'll talk to that. You're going to see this state do something. I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, the politicians in Tallahassee do a lot of talking, but my guess is over the next year to 2 years, you're going to see something in the way of relief. Whether it's, I don't know that they'll do it just for us seniors, but they'll probably try to cap property tax rate increases. They may try to create a scenario where as property values go up, municipalities and counties have to roll back their property tax rate to keep it balanced, so there's a net balance. You might see all kinds of other creative things. A shift of the cost of schools shift to a different form of tax. That would make me nervous, but they're talking one of the things about paying for that with sales tax. God forbid there's a real recession or disasters. Where's that money going to come from if there's not as much sales tax? But they're going to come up with some combination of things to help cut property taxes. If we keep pressure on them to do something about insurance rates, and we take a hard look at managing CDDs efficiently so they don't get overextended, we can mitigate some of this. And the biggest thing will be, can we develop this city in a way that stimulates the commercial growth so that the businesses that come here to meet the population needs, we're also on 96,000 now, as we hit that 100,000 mark, all of a sudden we're on everybody's radar. You're going to see these businesses come in more and more. That's why Costco went to Welland Park, because there's going to be 50,000 people there. I mean, 50,000 homes. The density's there. Of course they want to be there. They'll want to be here too. Others will want to be here. And, you know, if we can shift some of the tax burden onto their backs, it gives us a little, it may not reduce our taxes as much as mitigate the increases. And that's important because Every damn year, things go up. I mean, we've held for 6 years that property tax rate flat. But you're also paying more, aren't you? Because your property values go up historically now in the last year, so maybe not so much, but they're going up. And the cost of water and sewer, road drainage, fire rescue, all the fees are going up because it costs a fortune to provide those services. The more businesses that come in, the more they help to carry some of the freight. And so, again, it's a multi-dimensional chess game that requires some real sophisticated expertise. That's what the city finally has. It didn't have that 10, 15 years ago. It didn't have the people in the city. Commissioners don't have those expertise. What we do as commissioners is we create that vision and we give them direction and we prioritize where they spend their dollars. But we finally have the team to be able to do some of this. I wished it had been done 10 or 15 years ago and we'd all be reaping some of the benefits from it. It didn't happen then, but it is starting to happen now. So
Another
I
question.
didn't solve your problem, but I hopefully shed a little light. Yes, sir.
Florida State up.
I want to say that. Oh, no. So my first statement is that I truly do appreciate the police department. I think that of all the places that we've lived, this is one of the safest places we feel that we have come to and decided to in the last 3 years of the beginning. We really do appreciate the police department. Please pass it on to them. My next question is, you just cleared out 3 lots on the corner of Sumter and Cranberry. One is for Price and Cranberry. One is for the construction of the roadway being widened. The other 2, I'm curious as to what you're gonna do with the other 2 lots. Once you get done with the construction, are you gonna be planting trees there? That's a good question.
It's, if I remember, if the property you're talking about is what I think it is, property is privately owned, and that owner, a bunch of years back, wanted to develop. I don't know what they wanted there. I have no idea, to tell you the truth, but what I do know is that the cost of clearing it, the cost that would have been involved in cutting all those trees down was such that they made a decision not to until this project. One of the contractors who's doing work to widen Price reached out to them and worked out their own private deal. Once it's cleared, once the road's finished, my guess is that whoever that property owner is gonna come to the city and wanna do something. We don't know what. We don't know what it'll be. But no doubt they will come to the city and, look to do something. Again, with the ULDC rewrite, while they'll have some mixed use capability, they will have to conform, understanding that it's in a relatively residential area. So I don't know, as far as buffers, quietness, there's only certain things they can do. They can't just build anything there. So, what's gonna be there? I don't think anybody knows yet, except maybe the property owner.
Okay, but the lots aren't big enough for shopping center. They're not big enough for an apartment complex.
That's right.
So is it commercial or is it residential?
It's mixed use.
So,
It's zoned, it's actually zoned, I believe, mixed. So it could be I don't think it can be single family, but it could be duplex. It could be, what's that?
it's straight down the buffer.
And again, privately owned. How do you stop it?
No coincidence that all happened in the course of 3 weeks.
Because what I think occurred was the contractor needed space to stage. And somehow they found out about this property owner, reached out, and they made a deal. City had nothing to do with it. City wasn't involved in it.
Big lots worth.
Another question.
Yes.
I wanted to ask, do you know the timetable of the interchange up here at Toledo Way? Because like coming from the estates in order to turn to go to Fort Myers, you've got to go down and make a U-turn. And the same that people are making a U-turn coming up to Toledo Way. And it's gonna, I mean, I know accidents have happened there and it's just getting so bad and I just really fear for all the people coming now. It's gonna be even worse.
Susan, you're right on. I mean, every single day there's something that goes on at those interchanges. We were originally going to work to put in temporary lighting, lights there, but apparently FDOT's pretty darn close. I will do a little inquiry, because as I say, I sit on an MPO, that county MPO board. I can find out what their timetable is. I probably can dig into some of my paperwork and figure it out. But it's not far from that. Within the next couple of years, I am anticipating we're going to see that, especially at Sumter. Probably they'll do Sumter first because of the hospital, is my guess, and then Toledo. But yeah, it is way, way, way overdue. And working, I mean, the Yorkshire example, putting an interchange there, I mean, they were out 10 to 15 years. So we pressed and they moved it up. Now we're at a point where FDOT's come to us in Charlotte County and said, okay, now you all need to make the investment in the connective roads, the roads that are going to connect. So now there's a burden on Northport and on Charlotte to step up. FDOT won't expedite that interchange any quicker than we have the ability to go in there. Now we're going to go find the money for that. But that's so important because that's our springboard for that development out there. That's where I want to see all commercial development, far away from the residential as we can. That's where the big money is going to be for us. So yeah, it is getting closer and closer. So the sooner the better, because every other day there's an accident at Dorothy Valley.
Anyone else have a question? Somebody.
What else can I tell you that's going on? I don't know if any of you like Mineral Springs, but just an update. In fact, yeah, I don't know where it was yesterday. I guess at a commission meeting last night, somebody asked a question. I know Robin sent to ask a question. What is going on? Well, we're actually working not eventually, but actually in the near future, the idea is to run the utilities down Ortiz, put in bathrooms, take that little 20-acre parcel and do like a little outdoor area where people can eat, some good, clean bathrooms, and make it something we're all proud of. I mean, the commission's kicked this thing around for so long. It is a national treasure. And some of us, there are some of us in the city who think Mineral Springs is synonymous with the city of Northport. They would do anything to preserve it, and it is the greatest thing, since sliced bread, and it heals people and all that. And then there are others who want to fill it in. And commissions did nothing. I mean, after we bought out the county, there was just no plan. We made the commitment. We saved the money from the profits from the springs and impact fees that have been, or surtax monies that have been set aside. We have the money to fix up the springs area and make it look nice so people will be happy. Now, the other 60 acres, when I got on the commission, what was before us was a planned private-public partnership to develop with some condos or timeshares and a hotel and all this. I mean, I thought, wow, what a great deal. Somebody else's money come in, develop this, isn't this great? And then we started to hear from the citizens. You're going to destroy the springs, you're going to ruin the area, blah, blah. Mineral Springs, 60 acres, is never going to be an economic juggernaut for the city of Northport. But it should be protected and preserved. And so we are moving forward within the next couple of months. I'll see John Thaxton in the not too distant future and I'll find out how close they are, but they are very shortly will come back to the city with the first cut of the conservation plan. That 60 acres will be become conservation property. We carved out a piece of it to do a little bit of building on for maybe a day spa, maybe some other types of amenities, a restaurant, a cafe, different things. My plan would be, if I could make the decision by myself, is to protect that whole 80 acres, make it a, kind of like that old 2019 plan, but a little bit modified. I don't want to see the city's taxpayers be burdened with $500,000, $750,000 worth of maintenance costs a year to take care of it. I'd love it to be more natural, but I'd like it to be something that brought back some of the old time amenities and the things that people liked. And, you know, there was a lot of good things that went on there, and it just was neglected. This commission in the last 4 or 5 years, we're doing something about it, we're gonna bite the bullet. But here's a perfect example, and Myra can attest to it. Commission was like all hell bent on developing that 60 acres. And when we went full circle, it took what, a year, 2 years? And the P3 fell apart. Developer on that project walked away, decided it wasn't going to make sense to him financially. And now all of a sudden, finally, you know, commission in its infinite wisdom finally listened to the people a little bit. And that area is going to be beautiful. Getting water and sewer down Ortiz, all that area around it, other than a few parcels, is not even in the city of Northport. It's in unincorporated Sarasota County. The Mineral Springs is parcel 7A across the street from the entrance is now Patel's motel up there at 41. His water, his septic got so bad he couldn't fix it or replace it at a reasonable cost, so he petitioned to annex into the city. So that's coming. And what I think you'll see is that area start to develop. And since we capped the hookup fees for water and sewer, if you are an unincorporated Sarasota County property owner in that area, and you had the ability to hook up to public water and sewer, would you want to spend 20, 30,000 and stay in unincorporated Sarasota or annex into the city of Northport and cap that cost at something under 10 grand? You're going to do it. And with Welland Park kind of boxing that area in, and now in Englewood up there off of Winchester, you'll see another 3,000 homes in Englewood. That's going to become part of West Villages. For us in Legacy, it ain't going to cost us one dime. Mattamy, the developer that did West Villages, is going to do that. They're going to do all the infrastructure. They're going to do the same thing we did with Welland Park, and it's going to start generating revenue for the city of Northport. And the cool thing is, it's locking that whole area in, including like the waterway area of Mayaca and all that. That's all unincorporated. Sarasota County hasn't done much with it. And I don't begrudge, they're a big county. They got a lot of priorities elsewhere. But over time, and none of us in this room, except maybe a few youngins here, are going to live here long enough to see it. But the day will come and we'll all be part of Northport. And that's going to be a huge commercial area along 41, that whole section, which is so blighted. I mean, you remember after Ian, all those broken down buildings. I mean, I have to drive by it every single day. I used to like scream at my county commission friends, like, when are you going to condemn those? When are you going to tear down all that stuff? Little by little, they're coming down, but it's going to take years. But eventually that'll all be part of Northport. Help us. I mean, again, commercial revenue. So lots of challenges, lots of future for this city, but, you know.
I have a question for you.
Oh, sorry. Well, you live here. You can.
I do live here, so show of hands out here, how many people recycle?
Recycle.
Not that I pick on you, Kenny. All right. No, I love Kenny. But our recycling program generates about $400,000 a year back towards the taxpayers. It actually creates a revenue stream. Frank Lama is a genius when it comes to that. One of the things on the referendum was a transfer station.
Yep.
Big mistake voting no, by the way. And can you explain why?
Why?
Why we need a transfer station, why the value is there?
Well, you know, a garbage truck, picture this, a garbage truck costs $450,000. And it takes over 2 years from the time you order it to get it. Those trucks, every day when the guys are out there picking up trash, they fill those trucks. They gotta drive it to Sarasota to dump it. So they're riding on the roads, they're riding on the highways, they're tearing up those vehicles. The replacement costs are, as I say, astronomical. We project that this project, were we to invest about $13 million, let's say 15 million, into a solid waste transfer station. And what that is the trucks come into our depot outings where we do our recycling. Consolidate and transfer that to flatbeds, to trucks that then haul. And our garbage trucks can go back out on the road and pick up more trash. So we don't need to replace as many, we don't need to add as many to handle some of our growth. We projected that at 15 million. The return on investment was less than 7 years. And we would save literally that much money over a 5-year period, we'll say $13 million. And then the ability to sell those services to our neighboring communities and counties. It's just a moneymaker for the city of Northbrook. Want to lower your solid waste fees? That's the way to do it. So what happened? The referendum took place, it failed. What did we do? It's not like we should kick the can on that down the road where that $15 million project is going to be $30 million in 5 years or 7 years. So we need to get it done. So we raise our fees for solid waste. And over a handful of years, we'll accumulate the money to do it. And we'll build it. Would it have been better? And by the way, who's paying for it? Us. The ones who live here right now, even though that solid waste transfer station is going to benefit the city for years and years to come. And the people who move here after we pay for it will enjoy it and not have to pay a dime. Wouldn't it have made sense to finance that project? I think so. Now, there's a lot of reasons why referendums pass or fail. And we could spend till tomorrow or longer talking about those reasons. But the city has to respect the will of the citizens. And the citizens said no to that methodology, for that method of financing. So we have another way, we have the backup plan, we'll work at it, we'll do it the old fashioned way, we'll save our money up and pay for it when we have the money to do it. It costs, in a sense, it'll cost a little more because over a period of years, costs go up. But we'll save the cost of interest, which is a mitigating factor, and we'll get it done. And, it's a wonderful project that will see the day of life. I mean, it'll happen. It's just going to take us a few years longer to get it done, but, a great project, And there are a number like that,
Where's the company located?
out by the recycling area, I think. John, do you know the street? I don't know. I don't know the street names out there. It's pretty fun.
Set up, Yorkshire.
Out that area. It's yeah,
For Ian.
yeah. That's where we staged a lot of the debris. It's funny when, it shows you, this is such a 104 square mile city. When we moved here 8-9 years ago, and then I got interested in this and was going to run. Debbie McDowell took Val and I on her tour of the city of Northport. And man, I saw a thing. I didn't even know part of Northport was on the other side of 75. I had no idea there was an environmental park. And she took us to all those places. It was a real eye opener. So there's opportunity to build that where it won't bother anybody. The only other thing, let's see, we got a little more time. The only other thing I would say, there were a couple other referendums there, that didn't pass. At Pan American, we have a reclaimed water facility. And Some of you may know, some of you may not. That facility has tremendous capacity to process waste. But what it doesn't have the capacity to do is store it. And we sell it. We sell that reclaimed water to communities or to neighborhoods that irrigate with it. Just like up at Highland Park, we have a facility out there that does the same thing and provides the irrigation water. But when it rains, and especially in the wet season, when we're not selling that water because nobody needs to irrigate their lawns, we reach capacity. And if we get some heavy rains, we have some problems. We had a couple of spills of treated water on the property, contained, but nevertheless, a problem. And the Department of Environmental Protection came in and said, Northport, you got to deal with this. It's a $17 million project. That's a big bite. What the answer was to build a deep injection well and to widen the piping so we could provide the storage. Well, that was on the referendum too. That failed. So again, trying to be creative and think outside the box. Who has the money? I mean, we're the only people with money, and I'm getting tired of people taking it out of my pocket. So we talked to Mattamy and West Villages because they're like sucking up water out of their plant up there, and they do have the capacity to store. So what we did is worked out an understanding, and I don't know if it's finally inked yet, hasn't come before us for final approval, so it probably hasn't. But they're gonna acquire that water and then utilize it to help the city. And they have the capacity at probably what'll be half the cost, maybe less. So again, there's always ways to skin the cat. It just takes a lot of work, a lot of creativity. I mean, there's something to be said for no debt. All my life growing up, you always tend to live a little ahead of your means. And, I, like most people, spent their credit cards to the limits and mortgaged what I had to and, leased or bought cars on credit. And, I finally got to the point in my life where I was able to get past it, and we don't have any debt. And I gotta tell you, I really enjoy not having any debt. It's a treat to be able to know that, we can make ends meet on our social security. Barely, we can live high on our, maybe not European vacations, but we could, do some stuff in the States and get by. But, it's for a city not to have the capability to finance its growth and to finance the infrastructure needed. It is a challenge. And I'm a big believer that those who benefit from things should help share in the cost. And when we pay cash for things that are going to benefit those who come after us, that bothers me a little because they're going to get the free ride. So we got to figure out a way to do it. When we have hurricanes, we spend near $100 million of our reserves. Thank God we had them. And we have great reserves. They're built back now. But do we really want to have to deplete them every time we get annihilated by storms? If we had had a second storm that year, we would have been in deep, deep doo-doo. And so the ability to borrow, the state and feds offer low and no interest financings. Some of it's forgivable. We don't have the ability to do it without a referendum. By the time you could go ask the people for the money, the window closes. So somehow, some way over time, as our citizens see that we're a professional run city, that we actually care about how we spend our citizens' tax dollars, and we try to be the best stewards of those dollars, hopefully we'll build that trust and understanding, and we'll pick up some of that capability. Maybe yes, maybe no. But you can't stop doing the things you know you have to do. So one way or the other, we pay for it. I just want to pay for it in the most efficient way, cheapest way we possibly can. And I'll tell you, your city is committed to doing it. It really is. You've got, you've got a professional staff that's, in my opinion, second to none. And you've got a commission who's made up of educated people with different occupational backgrounds. We don't always agree on everything. But I gotta tell you, we share the vision of growing the city in a smart way and making life better for all of you. And so when there's times you go, I want to strangle those commissioners for the decisions they're making, don't forget, we're you. We're affected just like you are. And there's not one of us on that commission that drives a Rolls Royce. Not one of us that has a yacht or a home in Europe somewhere. And we're all trying to make ends meet too. So all I can tell you is every day we get up and do the best we can for you all, knowing that every decision we make will make some happy and some not so happy. But we always endeavor to do the best for the most. And my commitment is to always be accessible to you, hear you, listen to you. I may not do or may not vote the way you want me to vote, but you're gonna know why. And you're gonna hopefully appreciate that I shared it with you, tried to add perspective, and, we move forward trying to do the best. And if we figure out that you were right, we were wrong, we're not above saying, we need to tweak this, and we need to pivot, we need to fix it. So
Give your contact information and how people can get a hold of you.
you can get hold of me at pstokes@northportfl.gov. My cell phone, if you want to put it down, my personal cell phone, 941-281-0598. If you want to praise something the city did, definitely call me. If not, call City Hall. No. But I'm always accessible. You got issues, you got questions, you struggle with the city on things, track me down, get in touch. I'll try to help you and put you with the right people. Understand, our form of government, we commissioners give direction, we manage, we dictate where the money gets spent, but the day-to-day is city management. So if the best is always to reach directly to them, but if you can't get your satisfaction, you can't get your answers, come to us, reach out to us, reach out to me, and I'll get you with who you need to get with to hopefully solve the problem. So thank you all so much.
Like this.